Hi, fabulous fourth graders. Thank you for tuning in to another online math lesson. Today we are going to learn how to compare fractions. I want to remind you how we compared whole numbers because you are all experts. If we have the number 321 and the number 247, we learned to first make sure that they're the same number of digits. Both of these numbers go out to the hundreds place. The next thing that we learned how to check is we look at the greatest place, that's the hundreds, and we think about its value. 200s compared to 300s would mean that the 300s is more, so 321 is greater than 247. There is a specific set of steps that we follow when we compare two numbers. Okay. Same is true. There are steps that we follow when we compare two fractions. Couple of things that we have learned about fractions that are important to keep in mind. When we have been given two unit fractions, a 1 in the numerator makes it a unit fraction. It is one piece, one section of the whole. When we have been given two unit fractions, the one with the smaller or lesser number in the denominator, smaller or lesser denominator, is actually the greater fraction. Pretend, please, that I have cut up a pizza into sixths. Here is what 1/6 of that pizza looks like. I cut up the same size pizza, but this time it's cut into eighths or 8 pieces. As you can see, the 8th piece is smaller because I needed to divide that pizza up into more pieces. Okay. This next part proves that a greater denominator, like 8, means that the whole is divided into more parts. Since the whole has been divided into more parts, each part has to be smaller than the other fraction. Another example, here is a candy bar. It's split into fourths. Same size candy bar, only this time I split it into eighths. The eighths are smaller because I had to divide that candy bar into more pieces. The greater the denominator, the smaller the pieces are, okay? Which means that that is a smaller fraction because the piece is smaller compared to 1/4. 1/4 is greater than, the color in 1/4, 1/4 of the candy bar is greater than 1/8. Let's practice this together, okay? So the smaller the denominator, the greater the fraction. Smaller the denominator, the greater the fraction. They want us to first take a look at page 297. If you don't have your workbook and a pencil, please go get your workbook now. You can pause the video and then come back for learning. If you have your workbook, you're opening up to 297, 200s, 910s, 71s. They want us to circle the greater fraction, use fraction strips if we need to. So I want to think through number 1. I know that the larger the denominator, the smaller the piece. Okay? So 12 is larger than 2. That means 1/12 would have to be smaller than 1/2. So circle the greater fraction. 1/2 is greater than 1/12. We could look at it like it's candy bars. On the back of your paper, you have some fraction bars. If I check my work here, I know that 1/2 would be this big. That is 1/2 of this candy bar. And the other fraction that I was given was 1/12. Oh my word, drop down to the 12ths. We have the same size candy bar, but wow, look how small those pieces are. When I broke that candy bar into 12 equal pieces into 12ths, they're tiny. 1/12. Compare that. Follow with your finger up. 1/12. Look at the half I shaded in. 1/12 is much larger, much greater. Excuse me, 1/2 is much greater than the 12th. Let's look at another set of fractions. 3/8 or 1/8. Well, I know that 3/8 is made up of 1/8 and another eighth and another eighth. 3/8. What is larger? One of those eighths or three of them? Well, of course, 3/8 is greater than, larger than 1/8. Let's keep our practice going. 2/5 or 2/6. Now for the first time, I have two different denominators here. I'm going to go back to my rule. The larger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. Okay? Compared to the larger the denominator, the greater the fraction. So I have 2/5 that I'm looking at, or 2/6. According to my rule, the sixth have to be smaller pieces. So I'm going to say that 2/5 is greater than 2/6. We are learning, so it's good to look at a model of visuals. So I'm going to go back. Let's check these candy bars here. Here's 2/5. And let's just kind of put a guide paper there to mark that off. Okay. Or is that greater or less than 2/6? Oh, well, notice my sixths. I divided my whole into more parts, so they are smaller. Definitely 2/5 is more of the whole than 2/6. So 2/5 is greater than 2/6. Let's hop down to number 8. My numerators are the same, I check that. And I notice my denominators are not. The greater the denominator, the smaller the parts. So if I have 3/6, remember that's 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6. 3/8 is 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8. Which would be more? Well, since my sixths are greater than my eighths, 3 of those would be greater than the 3/8. This next section says, all right, you're getting good at this. Let's add our greater than and less than symbols. Okay. 3/10 compares to 3/8 in what way? Greater than or less than? The greater the denominator, the smaller the parts. So I have 3/10, a candy bar I split into tenths, and I have 3 of them, compared to a candy bar that I split into eighths, which means these pieces are greater and I have 3 of them. I'm going to eat the larger fraction that has the larger pieces. Now I'm going to go back and check 3/10 compared to 3/8. Here's the tenths candy bar. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to mark that off. So that's how long that is. Now I'm going to look at my 3/8. 1, 2, 3. They go to here. Which is larger? 3/8. Okay. Let's look at another one. Let's look at one that has equal denominators. Look at this one. 5/100ths compared to 4/100ths. We're not going to have a fraction bar that's divided into 100 little pieces. You could think of I think of a centipede because they have 100 legs, all those little legs crawling along. Yuck. Okay. Let's picture this. A pizza is cut into 100 pieces. If you have 5/100ths, is that greater than or less than 4 out of 100 of those pieces? Of course, 5 out of 100 would be just one piece more than 4/100ths. In our small group today, we're going to tackle our puzzled penguin together. Your assignment today is to please finish up the top half of your workbook, page 297. We did a few together. And it's going to then ask you to put your answers into a document inside of Math Google Classroom. So just like we did on Monday of this week, you'll open up a document and it'll ask you to choose, what did you pick for number 4? What did you pick for number 5? That way I can see your thoughts and see how you are doing. Okay, so first we're doing the work on our worksheet and our workbook, then opening your Math Google Classroom to share your answers with me. Thank you very much for being hard workers. I'm really proud of you. Keep up the great work. If you have questions, please email me. I'm so happy to help you. I miss you all lots. Have a great day.